This is Christy with In the Streets with Christy McMillian, and today I finally got William Slade, and he is going to talk to us about the Great Opening. So William, you have the floor.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about the Great Opening. Since we just, Christy's been out doing a lot of the go-go artists and so forth that's been coming to Northern Virginia. We're going to talk about the Great Opening. I was a part of that Great Opening back in the days when we were in the go-go. Back in the the late 70s, the early 80s, actually is when the things started taking off in the go-go. And as it got closer into the 80s, into the 90s, it's got, things started moving even bigger and faster. As a young promoter, I worked with a gentleman named Pop Winger, we used to call him, up in Arlington. I started with him, and he started teaching me the basis of, getting into the promotion field, how to promote groups. So I used to roll with Pop, and he would take me out with the groups he had that he was working with. Armageddon was one of the groups out of Arlington that became very popular back in those times, and they had the R&B flavor with the hard punch in as well. And then I would think of groups that came out of Alexandria. It was many of the Twins. Them had a group that came out of Alexandria. So back in the days, it was all about the R&B sound. And then next thing you know, I discovered this thing called go-go out of Washington, D.C. Dual Proposition was the band I was thinking about in Alexandria back in the days. So then I was a musician myself. I was playing, had my band, my little band, doing things, learning about doing things within the clubs within our area. But when I met Pop Winger, he really got me in and started teaching me a lot about promotion. And later on I met his son Tony, and I started knowing Tony. We started going out to the BMA, started seeing bigger artists, Stevie Wonder, some of the major artists that was coming to DC, and spending time, at the BMA. I met him. I met a lot of the Ohio players. I could go on and on. Cameo. I mean, really, when you really get the opportunity to meet the artists on a one-on-one, George Clinton, next thing you know, I was following Funkadelics around a lot. Being a buddy of mine, we were going to all the events, had backstage passes to a lot of the Parliament Funkadelics event. Through Parliament, I had the opportunity to meet Sly Stone, Philip A. Wynn, that used to be with the Spinners, and a lot of other great people. My brother George McKnight, that lived out in Arlington, a lot of time he would be doing the limo service, so with him, I met some major artists, female artists at that time that was in the main industry, doing the R&B things, Natalie Cole, I met Natalie Cole and so forth, and many others. So by being in the music thing, it took me from one level to another. So when I got into go-go, I started seeing first bands in DC like Leadhead was playing, Unlimited, Unlimited Band was playing. The Aggressions really, I never forget the Aggression, because by then I done traveled in the Southeast and started going and checking out the Aggressions band. And then I got picked up by this other band. This brother wanted me to, I was a conga player when I first started out. I started out playing congas, R&B. And then this brother heard me and he wanted me to come play with his band. So we happened to do a show over in Southeast Washington. And I was trying to think of the club that used to be right behind the BK Liquors back up in the back. It'll pop in my head in a minute. So, we were there and we was getting ready to do our show. We was the opening act. And turn around, the closing act was Chuck Brown. So, I'm on the stage, we doing our thing. I'm doing my thing on the congas and everything. And then after I got off stage, I saw Chuck coming in. And I said to myself, that looks like Chuck Brown. And it definitely was Chuck Brown. So just as they were getting ready to sit, I went over and introduced myself to Chuck, told him my name was Slade. I was from Northern Virginia, and always admired his playing, you know, Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers. So he said, yeah, good brother. He said, I was watching you up there playing Congress. So I said, thanks. You know, he said, you're pretty good. I said, thank you. So after that, I sit back and watch Chuck and them do their thing. And like, it was like, it took me to a whole nother mindset. You know, even though he was doing the cabaret thing, but I could hear that rhythm. And it was like a rhythm that I never heard before. So as things went on, I started really catching on to different people in the industry. You know, when I met Joe Clark, I met Miss Mac from Rare Essence, Miss Annie Mac and her husband. I met all these people from Rare Essence, and but Joe Clark kind of took me around and started introducing me to people. And back in that time also, I had started hearing that sound even more. The sound had gotten to a more punchier sound and a thorough sound, and you could hear where they would take their breaks in between the rhythm and let the percussion do what it does. So I started just following that sound. And it led me to some great people. As I mentioned, Rare Essence and them, we used to, at one time, Joe Clark got us where we were opening up for Ovation is the band. I started a band called Ovation. And a bunch of young guys, I pulled them together. And it was kind of funny because when one guy came to me saying he wanted me to manage their band, I said, okay. And Deron McDonald, we call him Pluke. And he said, I want you to manage our band. So he took me and introduced me to everybody else. So we wound up in Camden Valley. I met Elwood Jones. And so we had a meeting talking. I told them, and their name was Star Child. The band was called Star Child. And I kind of laughed. They said, what's so funny? I said, that's a funk name, because during my time of being out there, I was checking out I was into the funk. That's where I was, R&B and funk. So when I heard that name, I said, no, we're going to have to change that. So later on when I came back with another beat, and I came up with a name, it was so funny. I really looked in the dictionary and got the book, because I was looking for a name, and I saw this name, Ovation. And then I read what it means, you know, giving a round of applause. So I said, I like it. And I took it back to the band, and it was so funny. Them dudes said, man, we ain't putting that Bama name on us. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And so they didn't want to accept the name. But now what I learned later on was they had a discussion about the name out on the basketball court. So they were convinced to go with the name. So I said, because I kept telling myself, I'll make your name bigger than household. I'll make your name big. It'll be a household name. Everybody will know you. And Lord and behold, that's what I did. I made the name big because I connected with the right people. And we started opening up from Essence. After a while, when we weren't with Essence, I met Big Tony from Trouble Funk. I met his manager back in the day, and who was handling the band. And next thing you know, I was flowing with him. So after a while, I was flowing with him and Miss Mac. So they were teaching me the game. So by hanging out with them, I started really learning more about the game. I started going with Trouble on a lot of their major events they were doing. I brought a young lady with me. We was following them out of town. You know, I got to meet Dyke and the boys, you know, and it was all good. I mean, it was just a lot of love was presented. So I really had time to study the music and being able to relate back to my band about where the music, how it had to sound, where it had to go. And my band, you know, at that time, Elwood was the leader of the band, the bass player, and he was very good. And, you know, and Edwin and I had a good relationship. And next thing, Mr. Wiggles came along, Jazz, you know, we pulled Mr. Wiggles in because at the time we first had the band, it wasn't Wiggles, it was one of the other brothers in the band playing. He was playing a lot of cowbell, but he also could play percussion. Then later on, we picked up Lil Rick Wanza came in, became a conga player. So I may miss a few names here and there, but it's been a time has passed a lot. But they were a great group of guys. They started listening. Next thing you know, I wound up bringing in some horn players. Lonnie and them came in, and some keyboard. His buddy came in on the keyboard, came in with us. And next thing you know, we started getting that feel, and started getting that feel and making it more solid. So Till was on the drum. So we developed a good sound, and they started understanding the feel of the music. the more they started understanding the feel of the music, it was able to present it. So I remember the first show we did back in the days, we opened up, well now actually we weren't the opening band. We were the closing band for Rare Essence. For Rare Essence, we was over at Anacostia. And Rare Essence was opened up first because they had a show later on at Cole Field House. So they opened up and did their thing and then left us out on the floor. You know, big as Anacostia, systems were set up from both sides. I was using a system from Bird Music then over at Ray's that was over there off of New Jersey Avenue. And then I had Brother Yao mixing for me. So we went there, we did our thing. The band was a little nervous about that because the crowd said, if you can't play, we're going to tear your equipment up. So they were a little nervous about it. So we made it through. And the band, after a while, they started loving us. They like how we sound. My rapper did his thing like he's supposed to do on the mic. My mic guy, Ploop. And it just elevated. Next thing you know, we had that whole joint jumping. After that, the doors opened for us in D.C. But the real thing I want to speak about is how that relationship went from that to Virginia. Because after a while, I started bringing some of those people like EU. I met Sugar Bear and started going to his rehearsal down at, we used to call it the Blue House over in Southeast. Going to the Blue House, I met a lot of his people there. And, you know, Sugar Bear and I developed such a good relationship, just like I did with Tony in early back in the days. It was James Funk who was heading up Rare Essence. So me and James Funk developed a good relationship too, when they used to come down and play in Maryland. So I saw how good these bands were. I said, I want to bring some of these bands to Northern Virginia. So I started talking to Pop. Next thing you know, we started, you know, he backed me up on bringing certain bands to Virginia. Next thing I met Ted Hopkins, which was the gentleman who was managing Trouble Funk at the time. And Ted Hopkins and I developed a good relationship, and along with Miss Mac. So I told him I want to promote shows over in Virginia. So we had put on a major concert one time, and that major concert was going to be in Arlington. But the fear that they had of us bringing too many people into Arlington for the concert, because it was like, I had Ovation, I had Trouble Funk, I had EU, I had Rare Essence, I had everybody. I had a good package. So they brought the state in on me and wanted to close me down. So what happened, being that there was money involved into all our promotion, radio, flyers, posters, everything. So what happened is, you know, if they say, well, you close, you know, shut the show down, or we gonna block all your promotions. So I said, okay. So I called them and told them what was going on. I said, well, give me a day, so let me put my head together. So I got my head together, and believe it or not, in 7 days, we relocated that show. We relocated to Dale City. I went to the Dale City skating ring. I talked to the guy. He said, I would love to have your show. Cut a deal with him. Brought the whole show and moved a whole show in 7 days, and we still had a great turnout. So from there, that kind of gave me some kudos in the game, you know. So I kept doing what I did. I kept bringing entertainment over there. They kept allowing me to bring my entertainment into DC. We played some major shows with Rare Essence, you know, and like Coliseum. We played the Coliseum with Rare Essence. And, you know, we were doing some good things, and I just started developing a good relation. Later on, I had the opportunity to meet, well, like I said, Joe Clark, and then Dave Rubin. And as the years went on, Walt Jam, you know, I met Walt Jam and his wife. They were great PR people, you know. I met Kent, who was doing, later on, opened up his own place, you know. So I started meeting all the good promoters and doing shows with them. They letting us headline, and then we turn around and come back to Virginia. We got back to Virginia where we started at. We had so much love. You know, we was doing, we was doing double booking shows, you know, around the neighborhood. Next thing you know, I had them all down in Fredericksburg. From there, we was going to Reston and so on. But even for all that action that was taking place, one thing started in Virginia that many people don't remember. At one time, it was just DJs. DJs were so powerful in Northern Virginia that, and I guess in the city too at one time, but in Virginia for sure, the DJs were so powerful that they were packing houses like bands were packing houses. Like you had Lenny Pope. Lenny Pope was on the west end. He was going from Falls Church all the way out to Reston, all those areas. And, you know, oh, he had that locked down. Lenny Pope, even when he came into Woodbridge and places like that, Lenny Pope had everything locked down. People, he could pack a yard of people. You would see that trailer come in, and Lenny Pope was just making all the money. And then after a while, you know, you had DJ Storm. DJ Storm was he rolled in through Woodbridge and Fredericksburg on out. DJ Storm was a Virginia DJ. And then you had Storm and Norman that came from across the bridge and different people. And then you had another DJ Storm that was in DC. So, but over in Virginia, you had DJs like that. And Mardine, DJ Mardine came out of Alexandria. He had Alexandria locked out. Next thing you know, DJ Nose came up. He locked it down after Mardine. And so, you know, you had a lot of DJs that was like the joint. So people was not, they was vibing that. So when we came along, you had to really prove yourself as a band and that your sound would draw the people. And this is what Ovation did. We drew the people. And then when we brought a band out of DC, Junkyard, I had Junkyard, I worked with Bugs, and then one time I used to take Bugs and them down to Fredericksburg. So we started doing Junkyard in Fredericksburg, you know, rocking the house out and everything. So a lot of these bands, not blowing my horn, I contributed to bring them to Virginia and build such a relationship with them doing that. And after a while, the DJs had to join us. The DJs started coming in and would open up the show, and then when the bands take a break over in Virginia, the DJ would be on the thing doing his thing. So we developed a good relationship together, so everybody was still, you know, making out. So this was one of the most powerful things that took place in the industry. So, and I use that word industry because go-go is an industry of its own, and it's still very vibrant today and powerful today. When Chuck was here, a lot of bands couldn't come into the city. Even Rare Essence right today, they still put, when they bring a lot of major R&B artists here or rap artists, they want to put a go-go band on the show. Why? Because they know it draws. Belladonna draws. All these bands was still drawing making people in. Faces You Know has become one of the top bands in Northern Virginia. And still, Maryland, so many places out, Maryland love Faces You Know. Faces You Know get a lot of the top billing shows, like far as like they playing on yachts and all these type of things. Because what they did, they mastered taking that R&B sound with the go-go and, you know, just mastered. And Doc used to play with Donnell one time, him and Alima. The drummer is my son, so my son used to play with me, you know, and he started as a young kid learning how to work them drums. But they have a force to be reckoned with as well. And they keep doing what they're doing, and people keep showing up. So like, this is the most powerful thing that happened in the industry. So I'm just giving you some feed on how this thing has started and how it built up and how the success rate of it is still working, still building, people still coming out and supporting. So, cut y'all off. I'm going to go out here and finish enjoying this beautiful day out by the water. And I just wanted to share that with you all. And I thank Christy once again for doing what she do well. And y'all go out and enjoy your Sunday and have a great day.
Slade,
peace and love.
Thank you so much for giving us the story and the history of go-go in the Alexandria area, because I know DC gets a lot of credit, but Alexandria gets overlooked. You know, VA gets overlooked.
Yep.
There's so many powerful musicians and artists that come out of VA.
Yes.
So thank you for, you know.
And I want to leave one thing with you too. Never overlook the promoters. Because if you build a good relationship with promoters, you'll keep working. And I want to shout out to Vaughn and his team over here in Virginia that's been doing some outstanding work for quite a bit. So, peace and love.
Thank you, Slade.
You're more than welcome.
And of course, this is brought to you by We Buy Property As Is. And you can actually earn money if you give us leads. We Buy Properties As Is. You can contact them at 571-291-2191. And you can earn from anywhere $500 to $1,500 once the lead closes. So you give us that